Hey YouTube, it's Justin, aka Demonic Sweaters, here with another Behind the Mix video. This one is going to be about the song Darklight that is on my album Turn of the Scroct, and I did it here in Ableton Live 9 intro, as you can see on the screen. And the title is pretty uncreative, actually, Darklight. It originally was a working title. You can see here Darklight Experiments, and the reason why it's called that is because basically, this entire song was made using the UVI Workstation plugin, Darklight 2X, which is a Fairlight CMI emulator, and it's a really, really cool soft synth. If you've never seen it before or heard of it, you should definitely check it out. I really like all the stuff UVI makes. I have several of their synths that I use in a lot of music, and they're just really, really good. They use the real hardware to sample it, and it just sounds really good. So let me just play a little bit of this, and you can hear how it sounds, and then I'll kind of explain what is going on in this mix. So here we go. Okay, that should be enough to give you some idea. If you want to check out the full song, check it out on my album Turn of the Scroct. You can stream it on all of the streaming services, as well as download it at anthillrecordings.bandcamp.com. So let's talk about what's going on here. So the first instance of the UVI Darklight synth is playing a sequence right here. So let me go ahead and let me actually first turn down my master a little bit so it's not overbearing on you guys. And let me play. I'm going to solo this track. Okay, so right here, what's really cool about this synth, as you can see, it actually even has a built-in sequencer. So the drum beat I created in this actual synth itself, and I had a lot of comments on the video of this song about the kick drum sound, and that's where the kick drum sound comes from. It comes directly from the UVI. And what I did is I took one of the presets, Brazilian Bits, and I kind of edited it myself. And it's really easy to use. You can just click notes and they come on, or you can click them again and it makes them a lower volume, like that. So I could change the snare part here if I wanted to. So yeah, that's how I did that. If we go in here to the different presets, basically the way the UVI is set up, or the Darklight is set up, is it has different pages, and this, I guess, is how the actual Fairlight worked. I never played with one personally because they're like $10,000, so I never had enough money to actually play with one, but I've always been a huge fan of everybody who ever used one, which was like Art of Noise, Peter Gabriel, Genesis, just about all the early 80s electronic and new wave music of the ones that could actually afford it. A lot of Japanese electronic music like Yellow Magic Orchestra, the band Yellow, who I'm a big fan of. They all used the Fairlight CMI, and it's just a really, really cool synth. And if you've never seen one, it kind of looks like this photo right down here. This isn't really big, you can't see it, but it looks like a very old computer with a huge keyboard on it, and it was like a gigantic like tower unit that had all these cards in it and stuff. And basically it was one of the very first samplers, and so we can see in here there's all these different sounds. We have all the brass and bells, or bass and bells and brass, and then there's drum sounds. And then if we go into the other pages here, on page B, let's see, this one I believe is, yeah, this is the drum machine, page B. And then I probably shouldn't have done that because I already had this sort of set up, but I can switch it back. And then if we go back here again, page U, this gives us sort of a music sequencer. And what I mean by that is I'll show you here in a second. Let me just get this back to how it was. Okay, so as I was saying, there's the bass sequence going on here as well. And if I open this up, the other instance that I have here, and let me just solo this track. And this actually has the bass line as well as that kind of higher pitched sound going on there, the kind of an FM synth type sound. And how this works is when you hold down a note, it basically plays it to the key of whatever note you're holding down. So what I did is I played this on a MIDI controller and basically just programmed out my bass line to the drum beat that I had on the other one, and everything synchronizes pretty well with Ableton as far as tempo goes. I might have had to match the tempo. Yes, I did. I remember now. Right here, you can see that there's a tempo setting on the Darklight itself, and I just matched it with the tempo in Ableton, and then it syncs up pretty well. And I didn't have to worry about quantizing or anything like that because it's all already done within the synth itself. So it's pretty easy as far as that goes. There's, this song itself doesn't have a whole lot of mixing going on, other than what I did with the UVI Darklight, because basically it was when I first got it and I just wanted to play with it. And so I didn't even know if what I was making here was going to end up being a song or something that I was going to keep, but I ended up really liking it. And so I did keep it. But, there's not a whole lot going on in the mix other than just the plugin itself. There is a MIDI track here that I used to sequence another part, but it's also on the UVI workstation, and I can play that here in a little bit as well. And I believe the only actual plugin that I used was on the master, other than the UVI workstation, was on the master, and it's George Young's W1 limiter. And if you're not familiar with this is a great free limiter plugin. It's basically like a clone of the Waves, what's it called? Waves M1 or something. He calls his W1, but Waves has a famous one that I can't remember now because I've just been using this one for so long. But it's a very, very good limiter. And one thing that I do, and I actually wanted to talk about this a little bit, is a lot of times I will put a limiter on the master, but you have to be very careful with this, because if you put a limiter on your master when you're mixing, it's really easy to start pushing things way too high in the mix. So what I'll do a lot of times is I'll put a limiter on there, but then I'll disable it while I'm actually mixing. So that way I can get my levels set at a level that I actually think is good and it's not pushing everything way into the red. And then I'll turn on the limiter just to catch, the extra little spikes going over, up out of the limit. That way I don't have a really, really compressed sounding mix, is basically what I'm trying to say here. But that's something that I do quite often. Like I'll have a limiter on the master, but then I'll mute it and then turn it back on after I'm working on the mix for a while, or almost done with the mix. I'll turn the limiter on, and then I can tweak it a little bit more just to hear how it sounds with the limiter. But you don't want to over limit in your mix. That's something you're going to do later on when you're actually mastering the project, which I've talked about in the past. So anyway, let's take a look at what else I have going on in here. And the third track, let's see, can't really remember. I think it kicks on up here somewhere. I know, I just passed it. Oh yeah, this is kind of this voice sound, which is a very famous Fairlight sound that I just really, really like. Like I like all these ahs and oohs and stuff like that, like voice samples, and they just sound really cool. They're like kind of lo-fi, 8-bit sounding. And what's really cool too about the Darklight is it gives you some tools to make it sound a little bit even more exaggerated than the original. Like it's got a bit crusher built in here, so if I wanted to, I could turn that on and reduce the bit rate even more to make it even more lo-fi sounding. Like that. Gives it like that nice digital hiss. And then it's got a reverb and delay and phaser. And you can also layer things within the plugin itself. Now this works kind of screwy in Ableton, so at least in my experience. So the reason why I do it like I'm doing it, where I just put different tracks in Ableton and just create a new instance of it, I just find it easier that way. You can sequence things with different MIDI channels all on the same instance, but to me it was just easier just to do it all on different tracks. So that's what I did. And let's take a look at the fourth track. It's just another instance of the Darklight plugin. And this one, oh yeah, okay, so this is like that slow synth or string pad that I have going on. And this whole thing, as well as the other version, or the other instance of it, this is more the synth parameters. And so you can see here we have the different plugin, or different presets, not plugins. And this was just a strings preset that I went in there, and I probably even just left it. I don't think I even edited it. But there's so many good ones. I mean, you know, when I was younger and I was like making music, I used to be really against using presets because like I felt like it was cheating. But now it's like, if the preset sounds good and like I like it and it's what I was imagining, then I'll just use it, you know, because like why give yourself extra work? There's a lot of great stuff out there, and a lot of these programmers spend a lot of time making these patches sound really good, so use them. You know, they help you out. So that's my feeling on it now. Used to be different, but, you know, I can kind of, you know, I see it both ways. Like, I can see why you would want to make your own, and I do sometimes still. You know, I go full on and create my own samples and everything. But, like I said, if it's a good preset, it's a good preset, so I'll use it. So that's that, and, you know, there's not a whole lot to talk about in this mix. It's just different patches that I did and just sequenced all from the Darklight plugin. And I wanted to talk about it a little bit, and I use this plugin a lot. Like I said, you do have to have, you know, UVI software. It's basically like a sample player, the UVI, what do they call it? Workstation. And they sell different patches that you can use for the Workstation. And one of them I have is this one. And there's another one I have too called Digital Sensations, which is kind of like a plugin that has a lot of different famous synthesizers in it, like the DX7 and some of the old Korgs, I think the M1. And they always call them something different because they don't want to infringe on copyright. But it has, like, you know, samples and emulations of all these famous synths. And that one's really good, Digital Sensations. And then there's also the Darklight plugin. And, you know, they're pretty affordable. A lot of times they'll have sales, you know, and they're not like super cheap or anything, but you get what you pay for. You know, they're a quality instrument. They sound like a real synth, and you do need to have an iLock to use them, so you have to license it, you know, and have your iLock. I've had the same iLock for like 10 years, and I've been using it forever. So, yeah, I mean, as long as you have one and you register it, then, you know, you be good to use it for as long as it's around. And they're really cool. So, you know, I'm not getting paid to do this or anything, but, you know, if you guys, if anybody from UVI is watching this, you want to send me some stuff to play with and you know, do a sponsor video, I'd love to do that as well. But anyway, that's all I wanted to do for this video, really. There's not a whole lot of mixing going on here, but I did really want to show you guys the Darklight plugin, because I made a post about it not that long ago on my, you know, YouTube has like posts, like your timeline or whatever it is now. And I put one up there, and I got a lot of comments on it, and, you know, somebody asked me to do a demo. So I just wanted to show you guys. The next one I'm going to do will be a little bit more involved in actual mixing, but, you know, I still thought this was a pretty cool thing to show you guys. So anyway, hopefully you enjoyed the video, and if you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them down below. And I'll be back soon with more great content, so thanks for watching, everybody. Don't forget to subscribe, click like, and I'll see you guys really soon.